I have not been able to give you explanation of the essentials of Buddhism, which will form the basis of meditation, because I have been so very busy for the last 2 years. Is there any one single individual in this world who will not die? Who will not die? When you die, where do you want to go, to heaven or hell? To heaven. But what have you done to go to heaven? By praying to God, you will go to heaven. Is that enough? You must do the processing of the mind, is not it? Of the impurities, which might be responsible for going to the lower lanes of existence. I think generally all religions believe the existence of heaven and hell, is not it? All religions believe the existence of heaven and hell. But according to Buddha, we have got a greater variety. See, what we have got hell, we have got 4 different subhuman planes. Subhuman planes, the lower one. And we have got the 6 celestial planes above the human world, human plane. This is what generally other religions speak of paradise. But we have still other called the Brahmanic plane. So there are in all 31 planes of existence. 4 is subhuman. That is the demon world, the ghost world, the animal world, and is hell. Hell is the worst type for all beings, because there is continuity of suffering. As it were, they were undergoing very great suffering, as if burning in cinders. So that was very bad. And see, we have got 6 celestial planes where you go for your good merit. And there you enjoy as if in paradise. But they are all sensual. What you enjoy in the field of sensuality is not good. But if you can transport yourself to an area beyond the range of sensuality, then that is hell. So, we call the sensual planes the karmic planes. There are 11 planes which we call karmic planes. That is the human world in between the subhuman plane and the celestial plane. As God or Deva or celestial beings, they enjoy sensuality to the greatest height. They enjoy life there. When they consume the credit balances of their good deeds, see, they just come down to the lower subhuman plane or human plane. So in that way, this changing nature of existence is taking. But yet we have got what we call the non-sensual planes, the Brahmanic planes. They are, as it were, in space. There is no taint of sensuality, no taint of impurity. It is perfect purity. It is radiance, so to say. When you get into that plane, see, you are freed from the bonds of sensuality. You get yourself beyond the range of sensuality, and where you enjoy what we call the peace of jhana, a perfect transcendental peace. So, when you take your meditation here at this center, and when you try to develop your mind to a perfect state of purity, you try to transport your mind to be in tune with the nature of jhana in the first jhanic state. That is, you try to get out of the field of sensuality. Both the lower magnetic field of subhuman plane and the upper magnetic field of sensual plane. So, at times, when you get a semblance of light, that was the moment when your mind becomes perfectly adjusted and balanced. So you get tuned in with the forces of the first jhanic state. At that moment, your mental level is equivalent to that of a Brahma in the first jhanic state. But even though it might be for an instant, because you connect yourself with the forces of purity in the first jhanic plane, or in other words, you draw in the forces of purity to join with the essence of your mind. So the impact of that purity which you draw in has got a telling effect on the impurities which by nature exist in man. That impact creates sort of upheaval. So after some spells of good meditation with the points of light, there might be reaction, which will sometimes even upset you. You will feel out of sorts. You will feel uneasy. You will feel restless. Because, just like the example I would give of a person who is trying to throw cold water into the furnace where there is heat so much in there. The impact of the cold water on the furnace will create a sort of upheaval. Until that the thing is spent out, you'll be in an unsettled state of mind. That you have to remember. Sometimes people think, no, I got just a point of light. My mind has been so calm. What's the matter? Now I'm restless and all that. These are the natural tendencies, natural followers. So, if you can understand this, you will go. Otherwise, you get disturbed in mind. When you're trying to purify your mind, you get disturbed. And you're carried away by that disturbance, sometimes to extremity. Sometimes so much so that he became disappointed with the work and he felt like running away. So such are the things which you have to be very cautious. So if any such reaction like this happens, just take easy, smile it away, and let it be spent out. Or another way of getting over the difficulty is, if you can feel like doing, just wrap it up. A hard breathing for a few moments till you become settled down. As if you are blowing up something that has got inside. You understand? So in that way, stage by stage you get over. Till you can remain in that state of equanimity for a longer period. You remain in the state of equanimity for a longer period when your mind becomes settled down on that spot, on the upper lip, which I show. If your mind can stay, if you can anchor your whole attention on that little spot, on the upper lip, for a length of time, the mind becomes settled. But at times you find that your attention slips away from that spot, isn't it? At times you will find that the attention here becomes a little loose, not so very much fixed as it should be. Isn't it? It becomes a little loose. Then you put a little more concentration, more concentrated effort together to a point if possible. Then you get a depth of mind, and you get what we call one-pointed vision. So the more you get to it, the better in the progress of development of samadhi. Only when you become very developed in samadhi, then you can go into what we call the meditation of vipassana. Vipassana means insight, to study nature as it truly is. That is to say, in the atomic age, everyone knows that the whole universe, whether animate or inanimate objects, are made up of atoms, electrons, and whatnot. Isn't it? They are all in a changing state. And so also our body is composed of these atomic units, ever changing. When you have developed to a particular state of samadhi, you can become sensitive to the nature of those atomic reactions, the biochemical reactions that are ever taking place. And then you come to know something true of nature, which has been hidden to you Although the scientist says that a piece of iron is made up of all atoms in its state of change, you can't believe it very easily because you have confidence in them, you begin to believe, isn't it? Now, when the people say, you see, that Tito and Gagarin have been going round and round the world, and you begin to believe, but you don't see. But here, I won't suggest anybody to believe anything unless he sees it, unless he experiences it. So you are not here to believe me. Buddha says, don't believe me even. You experience yourself, and you find out whether what you experience is good or whether it is for your well-being. If it is for your well-being, you can accept it. If it is not for your well-being, you need not accept it. So the training here will be through experience. When I say about these planes of existence, I don't mean that you should believe me even. You might believe in the existence of heaven and hell, enough there. But these details you will believe when you can develop your power of mind to a state when you open the cage and see all the living beings of these 31 planes of existence. I have trained a number of people to see that. You understand? But then only you believe. So I have introduced you to a Brahma in the first jhanic plane, and you'll be with me. I have introduced you to a Deva or celestial being in the Sumaharajika plane. You can meet that, then you'll believe, isn't it? You can see the lower planes of it where you may not like to go to be with them, but you can get a glimpse of that. Then you'll believe. But who will get and who will not get, I can't say. Because it depends upon what we call parami. Parami means accumulated credit, which you have accumulated by good deeds throughout all the millions and millions of experiences, the existence. So, what is very essential now is to develop the power of samadhi. When you have developed the power of samadhi, you will come to the next stage, which we call vipassana. When you come to vipassana, you experience something very phenomenal, something which you had never experienced before. Now with samadhi, when your mind becomes settled down on the spot, on the upper lip, you begin to get disconnected with the wall of ideas, isn't it? You almost stop thinking sometimes, isn't it? That is good enough. But when you go to vipassana, you can keep your mind inside the body with the feeling of this changing nature or a nature. And you can become more disconnected with the world. You can sink into it and stay there for so long as you like and come out whenever you like. That is what we call escape. Escape in the true sense of the word, not in the sense that in the West people make use of tranquilizing tablets and like masculine or some herbs or trying to do or get linked up with the spiritual forces of lower order. They became dominated by those forces and they lost consciousness of the one. And instead of starting other religions, they try to get yourself tuned in with the deities. Deities mean Indian gods. So the teacher will help you to create a seed in your body for the deity, to take root in it. And then when the deity gets into your system, you are dominated by that for a while, and you forgot in the normal way of thinking all these things. And that was, we believe, to be the short spell of relaxation. I think Mr. Hislop and Mr. Hislop, before they came here, belonged to that type. Yes. But now they have completely abandoned that. Of course, that is not bad in a sense that they try to relate themselves to the spiritual forces of a little higher than human, generally belonging to the Sumaharajika place. But here, my technique is to get one empty of all the spiritual elements there. You may have some, he may have some, and these little boys also may have some. Who knows? But if there are any spiritual elements in them, they have to be disintegrated so that you can be linked up with the higher forces in the Brahman. For so long as they are there, you can get it to the higher. So this is how I'm giving training here. And so today we just go on with developing the one-ness, and next time I'll give you an explanation of the nature of forces. How I'll give you a book also called What Buddhism Is, which contains a series of lectures given by me in the English Methodist Church at Rangoon in 1951 at the request of one Mr. South. Oh yes, we have plenty of copies here. Oh, you had? Oh, I have got a lot of copies. Oh, you had? Oh. So you have to prepare yourself to understand theoretically the nature of anicca by reading those books before you get on to Vipassana. I want to keep you for 1 or 2 days more, if necessary, because I have to see very carefully that you come to a particular point of samadhi when you will be able to be fixed on.